what I'm trying on my cell phone using 4G rather
Yes,
instead of
I did hear that part. Yes, I
using
did hear that
Wi-Fi.
part. Yes, yeah, I did hear that part.
So
Yes.
do you think we should give it a try?
That would be better because I think there is a problem with your internet connection today. Maybe that's not a usual thing, but today there must be one. Or it could be with my internet as well, but this is for the first time after a long time that
Yes, we
I
can't say it for sure that who's the culprit. But it's
of
one
course
of
not.
us.
Can't be sure. Yes.
So somehow it's not letting me log in to Teams. When I log in through my cell phone, it asks me to download the app. Okay, let's
Yes.
try.
Usually because the software would say that the browser is not up to date and all. No problems. We can try that later when it is needed. Okay. So could you tell me what have you decided? I mean, what sort of strategy are you going to adopt? Are you going to go for a fast track IELTS for like 10 days, or is it going to be a normal routine session for like 4 or 5 or 6 weeks?
No, I actually requested uh, asked him to. I want to go for a fast track.
Uh-huh.
Reason being that my, as I told you earlier, I don't know if you heard it or not, that I have to appear for IELTS because I have to apply for Canadian immigration, and all other formalities are completed. I'm only going to appear for IELTS and get my grade so that I can start my application.
All right. So, what modules do you think that you would need the most attention? I mean, because sometimes you do have a, an assessment of your own self as well. So, I'm sure that you are already an expert in listening module because that's never a problem. That's the easiest of all the four modules. What say?
Can you please just give me a minute? I'm getting a phone call from my guard. It might be important. I
Huh?
won't take
Sure, sure, sure.
unnecessary calls, but I'll have to take this one. My apologies
All
for
right,
that.
all right. It's absolutely fine.
Hello.
Doesn't matter. No.
जी वालेकुम अस्सलाम. हाँ ठीक हूँ अल्लाह का शुक्र है सलीम. सलीम मैं ना अभी एक ऑनलाइन कहीं पे बात कर रहा हूँ. मैं आपसे ना 9 बजे के बाद कॉल करता हूँ आपको. ठीक है. ओके. I'm sorry. It wasn't anything urgent.
It's fine. Okay. So, you must have a very back and your time, of course, on things which are unnecessary. So, what do you know about ads? First, you can take 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, whatever the time amount of time you want to take. What do you know about ads?
I actually I have appeared for IELTS somewhere 8 years back, something like that. I don't exactly remember that what I prepared or how to the details, but I do know that it has four
Okay.
modules: writing, reading,
All right.
listening, and speaking. I think
Uh-huh.
writing, uh, I won't be having much problem. Reading will be the best, but speaking and listening, maybe listening not, but maybe speaking. I have to get myself accustomed to what sort of, because you usually I'm we converse in English, but we are using a lot of slangs, and we are not particular about the language. But when we are appearing for IELTS, then we have to careful. And when once you have bad habits of using wrong terminologies and grammar, it is difficult to correct it, and you need practice for that. That's what I believe. Maybe you can enlighten me that if you think that I have some misconceptions.
Right. Okay. See, the thing module, we do not ask for students to, I mean, vocabulary all the time, because speaking module is actually a semi-formal conversation between a candidate and the examiner. So you can actually use idiomatic expressions, but not the slang. When we say slang, slang is usually regional or highly informal. And when we talk about idiomatic expressions, most of the times idiomatic expressions are universal. They are not particularly say, I mean, it's not associated with British English and or
Yeah,
American, whatever dialect, for example, even English, Australian. So idiomatic expressions are absolutely fine. You don't have to sound too formal. I mean, but again, semi-formal it is. So of course it is going to be a blend. So I will use some academic formal words which we usually use in writing module, and we might not be in practice using such expressions in our sounds a bit formal and a bit polite conversations that we type vocabulary. I mean, both the formal and informal expressions which we can and should use in speaking module. And then we'll actually merge them together.
I,
And
I'm sorry.
definition of
This time your side was breaking up as well, but I've generally got the idea. And I have my wife sitting beside me as well. I would want her to, if you could just talk to her as well, so because she might be having other
yeah, sure.
areas that might be difficult for her. So
Yeah.
my
Okay.
little one, you might be hearing him in the background. He's thinking that
I
we are
could,
talking
I
to
could.
him. He's only 3 months old, but he loves to. Whenever he hears somebody
Yeah.
speaking, he thinks that he or she is speaking to him, and he starts
He feels the same.
responding accordingly.
Hi, good evening.
Hey, little angel, you too. We are talking to you. Hey.
Hi, can you hear me?
So yeah, I can. Yes, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So now, as Bilal had told me about her concerns in IELTS, so now what about you?
Well, I have also
His
appeared in
concerns.
IELTS back in 2012, and it was, although I mean, I scored at that time around 7.5 in academics, but my problematic area, what I remember from past experience, that was reading, because of time constraint. What I remember that I wasn't able to complete it within due time. And my minimum
All
score
righty.
was basically in reading. So maybe I'm not much afraid of speaking or writing or listening, but reading.
Hmm. So do you remember the score that you got in reading module?
That was, I think, 6.5. That was the minimum I got.
So it was actually IELTS as well, or was it IELTS
What?
academic?
It was what you, sorry, your voice broke down.
Um, was it IELTS academic or IELTS general training?
Yeah, yeah, no, academics. We both gave academics.
All right. So now you want to appear in
If,
IELTS general training, right?
yeah, general training. And would you please also
Okay.
explain
So
how much difference should we expect from academics in general? Would it
yes,
be
I am going to.
easier
You know
or
what?
difficult? What would be the level of difficulty?
Hmm. Generally speaking, IELTS general training is easier.
Okay.
There are two modules where you will find it a bit easier as compared to IELTS academic. The first one is, of course, writing module. Because in writing
Okay.
module, I am going to tell you and I'm going to share the screens where I'll explain things that there are two tasks. And the task one in writing module is a letter to write.
Okay.
And that letter is just a piece of cake and a formal report, which is, of course, a sort of a Herculean task and not that easy. So if you compare report writing and letter is way too easy, way too easy. So
Okay.
it's just going to take like 30 minutes to make you understand that what sort of a letter you need to write. It's just going to take half an hour. So that's too easy. And you only have to write 150 words. And that's the only difference in writing module, by the way, because the task two, which is an
Okay.
essay, is exactly the same for both IELTS academic and general training.
Okay.
So the difference, what the first difference is, of course, writing module, task one, report
Okay.
versus letter. So you guys now have to write a letter as task one and an essay as task two. So
Okay.
that was the difference. And then when it comes to reading module, the difference is in the first two sections. There are
Okay.
three sections in IELTS reading, by the way. And the first two sections in IELTS academic are quite difficult because there are actually different articles and columns and passages taken from different newspapers. For example, newspapers like The Guardian, or newspapers like New York
Yeah.
Times, or newspapers, actually journal articles, sometimes even journal articles. For example, there is a very famous TV channel, you must have heard of it, the National Geographic channel. So there is a magazine called Nat Geo magazine. So sometimes text from there. So those sort of texts are comparatively difficult because of the C2 vocabulary which is used in such passages. So that is all. This is actually for IELTS academic. You don't have to worry because the general training test, in the first two sections, there are simple advertisements which could be published in different newspapers. Sometimes they are real advertisements taken from some old newspapers, and
Okay.
sometimes they are just made up stuff. I mean, that's not even a real advertisement. So short advertisements, brochures, and pamphlets, or something which could be pasted on a notice board. Easy texts, and they're not too lengthy. Vocabulary is too simple, and any Tom, Dick, or Harry could actually attempt all those questions. So reading module again is easier when it comes to IELTS general training, and writing is also easier. Um, Turning to speaking and listening, exactly the same. No
Right.
difference whatsoever, not even to an extent of an iota. So speaking and listening are exactly the same. Only reading and writing are different. We are going to have, of course, detailed
Okay.
sessions on almost all the modules and all the tasks. So if you have any questions right now, I would like to hear them now so that.
Okay. So,
I
what
hope
would be the
I answered
strategy
your
for?
questions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got it. Okay. My next question is, what would be the strategy for our training? I mean, would we be given, the test, mock test to prepare, or what, or lectures first and then tests?
So I have a plan in my mind, and it goes like this: that two sessions per module, and then of course every day there will be assignments after every session. And
Okay.
for example, let's assume that we begin with reading module or we begin with listening module. Okay, let's say if we start with listening module. So there will be two classes, two sessions for listening module, and once we start attempting one particular module, now that module becomes a part of our lives until and unless we attempt the test. So every day there will be an assignment for the module that we have learned once. So for example, today we learned listening module, for example. So now every day there will be an assignment for listening module. And let's say after 2 days, we are going to start with reading module. Now the assignments will only add up we are not going to stop the module which we have learned already, but we will continue adding more things. This is how it goes. So at the end of the week, we will be able to spend like 3 hours a day practicing tests at home. Those will be mock tests. And it is also possible that you guys, both of you, can actually visit someday, maybe on Saturdays. You can actually visit us on campus for a mock test if you want to have a face-to-face session as well. Otherwise, online tests are, of course, always available.
Okay, Wes, actually, we are in a different city. We are in Faisalabad right now.
Ah,
And I
I
think
see.
coming to Nikon might not be possible. Dr. Atif is
It's
a
all
very
right. We
close
can.
friend of mine. We have
Yeah,
been
I was told
neighbors.
about that. Uh-huh. Mhm. Yeah.
Um, that's how I know about Nikon. I visited Nikon many times.
Mhm.
Uh, there are a few questions in my mind.
Yes, please.
What is your take? That do you think 10 days would be sufficient, or do you have any recommendation to make to increase the number of days for us to prepare, or what is your suggestion and your advice?
Honestly speaking, I have never suggested anyone for a fast track class because by the end of the 10 days class or 8, 7, 9 days class, you will only be able to understand the ideas, but you might not have practiced enough. So at least 20 days. That is the least that you should go for. It is possible that you can learn in the first 10 classes and then you might only join for the tests for the next 10 days. But the problem is once a student stops taking classes, then they usually don't practice, regardless of the um, qualifications and regardless of the the age group they belong to, because a student would not pay attention to things the way they usually do when they are actually attending classes regularly. So I would suggest that uh, you should actually go for a few extra classes. However, if you are in a hurry, we can conclude things by the end of this week or maybe few 3, 4, 5 extra classes. It would be fine. But I don't know how much
Maybe
time you
I
will
think
spend
this
on your
seems like a
tests
good
every
idea.
day.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I thought that you
It's all
have
right. It's
already
all right.
finished. There is a lag.
I understand. It's all right.
Okay, are you finished, or should I continue?
I am. I am done. I am done.
Okay. Uh, Wes, I think this sounds like a good idea that we revisit after 4 or 5 days that how things are going. The objective is to get better grades than what we can get right now, to have some improvement. If that objective is not achieved, then I think these 10 days will go waste as well. So yes, there is a sense of urgency, but not at the cost of the objective that we are targeting.
Of
So
course, of course. Yeah.
we can I have purposefully not booked a slot. I went online for a few times, and I could see that the slots were available even for you know in a week's time. So that is the reason I did not book the IELTS exam slot. It didn't used to be in the past like this. Maybe now there are many. The IELTS exam is taking place in many cities, so maybe that is the
Yes,
reason
and
that.
yeah, lots of different exam centers, and even IDP has joined them. Earlier, it used to be only British Council and AO. So yeah.
Mhm. So once we are confident that we have practiced enough and we can uh, achieve the objective, that is better grades, then only we will be going for this exam. By the way, let me explain it to you that how important. Usually, the IELTS exam is important for everyone who is applying for immigration
Of
because
course.
the scores matter a lot. But for us, me and my wife, we are both 40 plus. So this is the only area where we can increase our points. So that is the reason I
Yes,
discussed
and then I
with
understand.
Dr.
I
Ahmed.
understand. Yes. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And uh, he suggested us that we should not take any uh, we should not take any risk, and we should avail any opportunity that can help us improving this IELTS score.
Yeah.
So I think this idea that after 4 or 5 days, if you would still recommend that, you would be a better judge that whether we should be taking the exams, or there is still some room for improvement that we must pay attention to.
Yes, we can change our houses halfway through the stream. It's all right. We, for example, after a few days, as you said, we can decide accordingly. It's no issue. Inshallah, we shall see if if I find that okay, you guys can get the required band score, then we'll book a slot. Otherwise, we'll take a while. We are not in a hurry. It's all right.
So I think we both are on the same page now as
Yeah,
far as the importance of this exam is concerned and the main objectives.
no doubt, no doubt. So, if you guys want me to give you a brief intro of what IELTS is, the formal introduction, maybe it could help us develop a bit of context. I will be telling some things, some of the ideas I will be mentioning them in general, and once we move to a particular module, then I'll specify them in detail. But maybe this general discussion, which I want to have with you guys, will actually help you develop a bit of background. What say? Are
Sure.
you guys up for that?
Yes, I think we must do that. That's a good idea. But before we start doing that, I remember what I can recall. I don't know where I heard this, but I remember somebody telling me that uh, to prepare for IELTS, you should every day, whenever you prepare, you should prepare for all modules. Don't prepare for
Yes.
one module in a day, or it's so. What you were
See,
suggesting was
okay.
that
Yes,
we'll be.
yes, I got your point. May I interrupt you there? Because if I
Yes,
don't,
sure.
then it would be a bit muddling. See, the thing is, that is about practicing different modules after learning things. So if I
Okay.
talk about four different modules in 1 hour session, it is not going to work because it will just be a random amalgamation of different random ideas, and you won't be able to program your mind accordingly. You will not be able to organize the data, the information in your mind. So we will actually learn one module a day, and
Okay.
then as we add up new modules to our routine, we shall add those modules to practice as well. So don't rush. Instead of going for practicing all the four modules from the first day, we should actually go gradually. We are going to gradually add up more modules to our routine. So it does take a while. Those suggestions are for students who have already attended classes for a while, and now when they want to practice, for them, we say that if you practice, practice all the four modules. Because if you miss listening module one day, the next day it sounds as if you are listening to some alien people.
Okay.
Because they
Got your point.
intentionally use particular accent features which are not very common. So while we learn, that this rule does not apply to such situations.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, so as you can see on our screens, this is the general overview of what IELTS is. There are, by the way, two different versions apart from being academic or general training. I don't know if you guys want to go for the computer delivered IELTS or paper based IELTS.
I think we'll be opting whatever slot will be available. We'll be going for that because I can recall there was a section which says that do you have any particular uh, what should I say, preference. And if you don't have any preference, it registers you for any of them, whichever is available.
Hmm.
By the way,
By the way,
what is your suggestion? Which one is better?
I would say that if you are already comfortable with using a lots of screens to read different texts, for example, if you have been a habit have been in a habit of reading articles or magazines or books on your screens, on your laptops in PDFs and all, then it would be fine. Otherwise, it is quite difficult to resonate with the screen because usually when we read from a printed paper. So I wouldn't suggest you to take a risk. I don't know how do you get on with the screens. I don't know if you have been typing a lot. I don't know if you have been using lots of mouse and copying and pasting and dragging things because lots of technical issues might come up in CDIRs. Although it has one benefit, and that is you can actually appear in all the four tests on the same day, and the result is out in 3 days. That's the positive side. Otherwise, it could be a bit technically challenging module. So I would suggest paper based.
Okay, I think I won't be having much problem in pairing CT based, but Sufi, you it will be problematic for you because on daily basis I work a lot on computers, so
Fine,
I,
fine.
I would prefer paper because I
so we
read.
both will go for, I think maybe we can do, I can register myself for computer based, and Sufi can register
Yes,
for.
yes. Suit yourselves. Because if one is comfortable with a screen, CD IRs, the other paper, paper-based IRs. Yes.
And maybe um, in my case, maybe we can do some mock tests on computers and on paper as well, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
By the way, I have a broken thumb of my right hand, which that is I my writing speed is very slow because of that.
Hmm. So, was it some sort of an accident that you met? An
It
unfortunate
it
accident?
happened 2 3 years back. Me and Atif, I used to play cricket together. Maybe knowing that.
Yes, he is an avid cricketer.
So uh, I was trying to catch a ball, and it actually hit my thumb near the knot, and the thumb got broken. I was not aware of it, that it's a broken thumb. And after 3 or 4 days, when I went to the doctor, he said that you have got too late, and now we cannot fix it. So it's a little misaligned. That is the reason I have, if I have to hold the pen or something for a very long time, it starts hurting. And since this incident has happened, I have not appeared in any kind of exam. It only happened 2 3 years back. So I'm
Okay.
not sure that how in my last IELTS attempt, this issue was not there. This is the
Okay.
first time I'll be appearing in any
Have you
kind of.
tried typing after this particular incident? I mean, not appeared in a test, fine. Have you ever tried typing some sort of a text?
Yes, I do it on daily basis, quite a lot.
So, how many words per minute?
Actually, I have not monitored the speed, but I think in one way, maybe I can do a test online. I'm sure there must be some website or which can do
Okay.
the work down
To
for
be
you.
honest, typing speed wouldn't actually matter a lot because you have got 60 minutes and the demand is to write 400 words only.
My
60
typing
minutes,
speed is not
400 words.
bad, but
Yeah.
I have no reference to actually validate it. I think it's not bad. It's good enough.
But
But
see,
like I
the
said, that
writing speed will
words
not,
per minute, I have never.
this. Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yes, yes, yes.
We can do some metering. I have never actually, never thought of actually calculating this speed, writing speed on notebook or computer.
On average, of course, 10 words per minute at least. Yeah, right. That is the least you
Must
can
be
do.
more than that.
Of
10,
course,
10
yeah.
words in a minute is too less. I think it
Yeah.
will be
So,
somewhere around
uh-huh.
something near 20 or at least 15 plus.
Yeah, and see now 60 minutes you have got, and you have to write merely 400 words minimum. So 60 minutes 400, so it's not even a multiple of 7.
But for sure, my typing speed is more than my writing speed.
But one thing which might concern us, and that is listening module. Because in listening module, sometimes you have to type answers too fast. Because within a time span of 5 seconds, there could be answers to two different questions. And this is where it gets a bit difficult. So we will practice some tests. There are some sample tests according to the format which you actually come across in the real CDIS test. Official tests are available. So we shall practice them and we shall see if you can actually type the words as per the speed of the audio.
Okay. Okay.
So that's something that we can discuss later as well. But let's see how it goes. This is, by the way, a sequence that is followed in the real test. As you can see, the when you go there, when the tests commence, actually it starts with the listening module, and once listening module starts, there is no break by the time you're done with your writing module. So continuously 2 hours and 40 minutes. The first
Okay.
three major modules are tested continuously. There is no break, no recess, no pause whatsoever. So for the first 40 minutes, you will have the question papers and the answer sheets for the listening module, and you will be provided with the um, the headphones, which are actually wireless headphones. So for the first 40 minutes. Once the first 40 minutes are over, then reading module starts. By the way, on your screen, you can see that it is written as 30 minutes. The 30 minutes is actually the time for the test. And in every single test, you will be provided 10 extra minutes if it is a paper-based IELTS. If it is a CD IELTS, then you will not get that extra 10-minute time, because actually those 10 minutes are given so that you could transfer all of your answers from the question paper to the answer sheet. And when it comes to CD
Okay.
IELTS, because you have to type all the letters on the blanks, so you don't have to transfer them to any separate answer sheet. So you don't get extra 10 minutes. Otherwise, in paper-based IELTS, when a student listens to the audio, he actually attempts all of the questions on the question paper, and later he transfers all of those answers to the answer sheet, because it is the answer sheet which is assessed, and the question papers are just, they are dumped in dustbins. So the
Okay.
first module goes like this. So right after listening module, the moment they collect the listening module's question papers and answer sheets back, they are going to give the reading module question papers, then 60 minutes continuously reading module, and then right after that, writing module. Okay, within these modules, listening module is divided into 4 parts. 40 questions are there. I will explain each and every part. Don't worry. Reading module, 3 sections, 40 questions. Listening module, 4 sections, 40 questions. Reading module, 3 sections, 40 questions. And both listening and reading are receptive skills. And when it comes to receptive skills, you have to just receive and comprehend the information. You don't have to produce a sentence. You don't have to produce a word. You don't have to write a word by yourself. You are just going to copy and paste. So usually the gap filling questions, even the demand is only to write no more than 1 word, no more than 2 words, no more than 3 words. That's the maximum. You are never asked to write 4 words. So all the questions in listening and reading are actually objective type questions. So either gap filling questions or multiple choice questions, for example, or let's say matching headings and stuff. And there is another typical question type in reading module, which we call the true plus false plus not given question type, because there are three options to every single sentence that we are provided with. And I already talked about the writing module. There are two tasks. Task one is a letter for you guys, and task two is an essay. And speaking. This is the shortest of all the four modules. If you appear in the paper-based IELTS, you will appear in the speaking module test on some other day. For example, let's say that you book your test for 21st of August, for example. So now on the listening, reading, and writing tests are going to be conducted on 21st. And speaking module could be conducted either on 20th or 19th or 22nd or 23rd, but not on the same
It
day.
can be before or after both.
Yes, usually there is a day or two, or sometimes 3 days before or after. But when it comes to CD IELTS, most of the times it is on the same day, the speaking. But you never know whether the speaking is going to get conducted before the major test or after. Usually it is after, sometimes before. So CD IELTS is actually getting promoted by these exam conducting bodies. So what they do is they conduct all the tests on the same day. They give the results in 3 to 4 days, because in paper-based IELTS, the result usually is out like in 2 weeks. In other words, 13 days. So it takes longer time, longer period of time. So this is the basic general idea. Um, if you have any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, I'm going to share another file, which I wanted to share at the beginning, but because we had a different theme of our conversation, so I didn't open that up. So if you have any questions by now.
Okay, I have one question.
All right.
I think it will be a good idea if we assess ourselves that where are we standing right now in terms
Okay.
of receiving the bands, and
Uh-huh.
so that we know that this is the baseline, and from here we have to go somewhere more
Yeah.
higher.
Yeah. So, should I drop a question paper with you guys? Maybe if you could send me a response and I could tell you what the problems are.
Uh, Maybe yes. You can guide us better that what will work best to have the
All
initial
right.
assessment.
So, because it was our first class, so I'm going to drop a question paper with you guys. So, um, do try some answers, but it's not going to be the file which, okay, let me see if I can do it right now. Okay, after the class I will, but right now I just actually want to talk about something else. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Just bear with me for a while, please.
No problem.
I hope you can see the screen that I have shared.
Not yet.
Okay, it might take a while.
Yes, now we can.
Okay, so actually, there are four assessment features on speaking. I'm going to start with speaking because you had mentioned that you are concerned about speaking module a bit. So today I'm actually starting with what is the assessment feature? I mean, on what basis are you awarded the score? So you already know the maximum score
Wes,
is.
just a quick question. Sorry to
Uh-huh.
interrupt you.
That's all right.
Will you share this stuff after the class, or do we need to take the notes right now? Um,
I
if you can
will.
share
I
this
will.
material, we can focus
I
on
will
the
share.
on what you are. Okay, so
Of
that's
course, I
good.
will. Yeah, yeah. I'll drop into your inbox because I have already shared most of the data in the timeline of the class. So I won't actually upload it again here, but I'll just drop it into your inbox.
Okay.
Okay, so let me explain now. So the maximum band score is of course 9. Now the problem is many students actually keep complaining about British Council or AEO that they are just running a bloody business and they're not giving us a band score because they don't want to, because they want us to appear again. The problem is people do not focus on what the demand is. So there are four different features. So there actually the 9 band score that there are in speaking module, actually that is a blend of four different assessment features. That is actually an average of four
Sorry,
different
we disconnected.
nines.
We have just joined in back.
Oh, okay. Let me sum it up again. No problems. The band score that you get in the speaking module is actually an average of four different scores. So you have actually a 9 band score for feature number 1. Can you read it for me, please?
Uh, I can still see page 1 of 1.
Can you see I have highlighted text?
Speaks fluently with only rare repetition,
So the
fluency, and
first thing is
coherence.
fluency and coherence. So you have a 9 band score for being fluent and coherent. That is a separate 9. Within speaking, this is just one chunk. This has an impact of 25% on your score. So I'll explain this later. The second one is, of course, lexical resource. So lexical resource has its own 9 band score. So you will be awarded for lexical resource separately. Lexical resource means your vocabulary. Now, what type of vocabulary we require, I'm going to explain in just a second, but let me just go through the list once. And you also are going to be awarded separately out of 9 for your grammatical range and accuracy. So if you are speaking in correct English, but there is no variety in expression, you're not using simple and compound and complex sentences, and you're not using active and passive voice, you're not using cleft sentences, there is no variety, you're not using modal verbs, you're just using some simple structures and you're speaking fluently, that doesn't work here in speaking. That is the third assessment feature. And the fourth
Mhm.
is, of course, pronunciation. And pronunciation is, again, equally important because there are four features which are equally important. So pronunciation does not mean that we will change the accent that we have by birth. Naturally, we all have a particular accent. But once you start learning pronunciation, it is about how do we pronounce words. I mean, particularly the glide of the vowels, and sometimes using expressions which are different in different particular pronunciation patterns. For example, if someone is using few features from British standard and few features from American standard. So the examiner gets to know that this person hasn't got a clear and good command of the accent or the pronunciation features. So that is also another thing. We have to be clear of what and how we are supposed to say things. And there are four. So now summing it up and then explaining it again. So precisely there are four different assessment features. Number one, fluency and coherence, which is of course a blend of two. Number two is lexical resource. Number three, grammatical range and accuracy. Number four, pronunciation. We have to work on all of them. How? Let's have a look. Let me read it for you, actually. So if one wants to get a 9 band score in this feature, of course, the target is 9 and then 7, 7.58. So you have to speak fluently with only rare repetition or self-correction. Sometimes it is fine to repeat a word, and sometimes if you make a mistake and we realize we should actually correct ourselves then and there. But if this is happening over and over again, so we are not fluent. So the first thing is the tip. This is the problem that is mentioned. That is the demand. What is the tip? Speak slower. Don't speak fast, because if you speak fast, sometimes the tongue is faster than the brain, and then they don't match up, they don't keep up with each other. So then we trip off, then we make a mistake, then we have to repeat ourselves. So sometimes we do know the structures, but because we are speaking faster, we make a mistake. So speak slowly so that you sound fluent, because speaking fast is not fluency. Speaking smoothly without taking unnecessary pauses is fluency. Am I making sense?
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
And
please continue.
the other thing is any hesitation whatsoever is content related rather than to find words or grammar. So for example, if you want to take a pause like this one, let's say if examiner asks you a question which sounds a bit complicated, you might say, well, that's a difficult one. I think I'll take a while to think about how I should answer this question. Yeah, I think I can check. So now see, I took a pause and I asked the examiner to bear with me for a while because I couldn't think of a good idea. That was fine, because that hesitation was not related to language. Because if had it been about language, I would have not said things in English. So I was continuously speaking, but I was just asking for some time to be bored so that I could actually think of a good idea. So if I'm taking a pause because I can't think of a word, then it is very obvious. For example, it goes like this. Well, now this is of course some sort of a pause which I took because I couldn't think of a good word, or maybe I couldn't think of a good sentence structure. So that sort of a pause where I'm taking a pause to think of a sentence structure or a word, it is going to harm the score that I get. So the first point summarized, speak slowly so that you don't have to take pauses. And by slow speaking, I don't mean that if you're already speaking slow, make it more slow. No, of course not. An average pace would do. So if you feel that you are taking pauses because you are speaking fast, slow it down. One thing.
Okay, I
think
have this.
you have a question.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
I have
please.
actually not a question. It's a comment that I have to make. I have this issue not only in English but in Urdu as well and Punjabi as well. Uh, Sometimes the word, it is there in my mind, but uh, it takes me some time to actually grab it. It is somewhere in the gray area, and I know the word, but I cannot say it. This is something which is, you can say, is some, I'm
It's
handing.
it's by default there. It's natural,
Exactly.
absolutely natural. Okay, we have a solution for that. And the solution is, see,
This might
that,
hurt us. That is why I'm asking you, and that is why I'm
yeah, yeah,
concerned about speaking. Maybe you noticed it in during our
I
conversation.
did,
There
I
was
did.
twice that the word was in my mind, but I actually could not just collect it completely.
It was on the tip of your tongue.
Exactly.
Okay. Now the thing is, sometimes it happens that you have the word in your mind, but it's just not coming out. You are unable to articulate that expression. So for such situations, we will use some non-committal phrases, some gap fillers. For example, I just used one. I mean, the one which was a response to your sentence. I said it's on the tip of your tongue. So for
Yes.
example, now let's say I'm answering a question in speaking module, and while talking to the examiner, I forget a particular word and I say, all right, so while talking about different ideas, I would say that, what do we call it? It's on the tip of my tongue. Oh, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
this was just one demo. So you are not giving up. You have forgotten something, but you haven't forgotten English language. You are saying that, what do we call it? You're saying it's on the tip of my tongue, or you could say it just slipped off my mind. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. I thought you were asking
Hello.
something. There was a
Hello.
background. Okay. I mean, we
Can
will
you
use
please
some
hold on
non.
for a second?
Yeah. Yeah. Please.
Yeah, just hold on for a second. Okay, sorry, there was a call actually.
It's fine. Okay,
My
I'm
bad.
wrapping it up, but let me just finish with this. So, I mean, I'll tell you a few non-committal phrases, because I have been teaching in classes, so usually my tone is a bit exaggerative. So I exaggerate things. So you will speak them naturally, I know. So I'm going to tell you those expressions, but I'll give you a demo as well, and then you use those expressions whenever you find that you are struggling with that particular problem. However, um, once we design some formulas, of course, there are formulas which we might use. You might not face the issue over and over again. Rarely, if it happens, fine. And it's a short test of 11 to 14 minutes. So, how many times are you going to face the issue? Four times, five times? Absolutely fine. We can think of five expressions which we can actually use to fill those gaps. Don't you worry at all.
Okay, that sounds supportive.
Yeah, don't you worry.
If
And
you have a question, you can just ask it or. Okay. So we are all ears.
yeah, so and the next is speaks coherently with a fully appropriate cohesive features. Now, when it comes to this idea of using cohesive features, it is actually about the conjunctions and conjunctive adverbs, which we also call them as actually signpost words or linking words or cohesive devices. I'm going to provide you with lists of such expressions which could actually help you connect different ideas. For example, most of them you already know. You just have to be conscious to be able to use them. Otherwise, you do know the words, but because you're not consciously speaking, so usually you forget using them. For example, words like however, or nonetheless, or nevertheless, or but, or yet, or although, these sort of words, these conjunctions actually join opposite ideas together, not the similar ones. So whenever I'm saying something using the word however, but yet, nonetheless, nevertheless, although, it is very obvious that I'm actually comparing two different ideas, two opposite ideas. So that is called cohesion. So because two different ideas, so am I going to just throw them out? Of course not. I'm not going to just use two different ideas without making any connection between them. There must be a link. That link could be that of similarity or difference, but there is a link. Even when they are different, there is a link. You have to tell that there is a link. And in the same way, if you're talking about two similar ideas, expressions like similarly, likewise, by the same token, in the same way, in the same fashion, similarly, etc. I mean, apparently these words are not, bombastic vocabulary. These words do not fall in that particular category. However, these words are not a demand for getting a higher band score in vocabulary, because that is the next feature which we'll talk about later. For the time being, we are not using these words to improve our vocabulary, because vocabulary is a different idea. We are going to use different expressions for them. It is for coherence that we are using them. So sometimes when I tell my students to use these words, they say, we already know these words. So what extraordinary are you telling us? So then I tell them that I'm not asking you to use these expressions to get a higher band score in the category of vocabulary, but in the category of fluency and coherence, because things need to be connected to each other. Precisely whatever you are going to say, every next sentence is actually connected to the previous one and the following one. You're not actually speaking randomly. We have to come up with organized answers.
Got your point.
And the last is develops topics fully and appropriately. So sometimes they ask us questions and we just answer them. Merely answering the questions is not sufficient. You have to establish the idea by explanation and by examples. Otherwise, just answering the question, that is not even the demand. For example, examiner sometimes even asks the names of the candidates, while he already has the list of the candidates and he already knows that candidate, and he actually knows the name of the candidate even then he asks the name. So they are not interested in asking questions, but they are interested in listening to your detailed, organized, and clear answers. So this is what the demand is. We are not done yet. We will be discussing about similar things in the next few classes as well. Speaking module for the first 30 minutes. In the next class, I'll talk about assessment features because we are not done with them yet. And then I'll share some ideas about speaking module, and I'll try to, practice some questions in the class as well. By the way, I am going to share some data with you maybe around 11 o'clock, because I am about to leave. I might return after an hour or two. So I will drop the data into your inbox. I hope you will manage if I share the data with you a bit late.
Yes, sure. No problem.
So if you have any question to
That
ask,
will
any,
include the question paper for assessment that you were mentioning earlier.
sorry, could you come again, please?
Uh, th- that data will include the question paper for assessment, initial assessment that we discussed a little while ago.
Ah, of course. And yes, actually, I'm going to share few questions for speaking and few questions for writing, and then just try to prepare an answer for writing module and try to prepare some answers for speaking. The writing module answers, you can actually send me anytime you are prepared, you are done with your answers, just drop them into my inbox. And speaking module questions, just think of some good answers and we shall discuss them tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good.
Alrighty.
So
So,
these two modules would be enough for you to assess, to benchmark.
of course not. We are going to practice more. Do you guys have sufficient time for two more tests?
uh, we, in our heads, we want to spend maximum time in these few days to prepare for IELTS.
Okay, okay. I'm going to send you data for all the four modules.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
so that we know that where are we standing, and then it becomes easier for you if you have a good reference point.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Avesh. Nice meeting
Thank you.
you. Nice
Nice meeting
talking
you
to
too.
you. We'll keep meeting for next few days.
Likewise. God willing. Inshallah.